Hello, everybody. Kevin from Storytellers Union. And if I am in front of a Christmas tree, that usually means only one thing, and that is it's time once again for my best albums of the year list. I once again am going to be doing my top 30 albums. But as always, I like to start off with honorable mentions. That's what this video is about. A lot of what I consider honorable mentions are not just albums that didn't make my top 30. For the most part, these are albums that just don't fit my criteria. Reissues, live albums, box sets. Box sets. This year was, in my opinion, one of the greatest years for reissues and box sets. I'm going to talk about some of my favorites. But before I do, let's go ahead and get started with a few of those honorable mentions that I was talking about, starting with Old Crow Medicine Show. This is a perfect example of the kind of album I don't usually consider for my best albums list, because my best albums are usually new releases of new original material. This is some original material, but obviously it is a Christmas album, the first that Old Crow Medicine Show has ever done. If you like Old Crow Medicine Show and that bluegrassy, high energy sound, you want something a little different to mix into your holiday playlist, along with all those time tested and maybe overplayed classics that you're getting tired of, this is one I would highly recommend as a fun album for your Christmas season. So get this one going now. Another honorable mention that doesn't fit my normal criteria in that this is a live album. Many of you may remember those. Some of my younger viewers here may not remember those because they used to be a big thing, especially through the 60s and 70s. The live album was kind of a rite of passage. These days, with everything streaming, with so many bands selling live shows through services like Nugs, the idea of a live album has sort of been relegated to a thing of the past. This reverses that trend. I think it is worthy of reversing that trend, shows what a great live album can be. That is Live God by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Nick Cave, the Australian rocker, and his Bad Seeds are an incredible act that were touring their album Wild God when they recorded this 18-song live album, Live God. It is not just songs from that new album, it's songs from across the catalog of Nick Cave, which if you are not terribly familiar, I would highly recommend digging in. You're probably familiar with the Red Right Hand from the Peaky Blinders theme song. That's kind of Nick's biggest claim to fame amongst those who don't know Nick Cave, but you should certainly know Nick Cave. My wife and I had the pleasure of catching the tour for Wild God when it came to Columbus, Ohio. It was my favorite concert that we attended this year. We attended quite a few, and quite a few good ones as well. Nick Cave's reputation as a live performer was well earned. It was the first time I had a chance to see the legend. We were in the balcony, not even the proximity of, where you might get caught up and swept away into thinking something was greater than what it is. It was just phenomenal. This album is a great document of what those songs are like when they're stretched out beyond their normal capacity. So classics from across the catalog. If you like Nick Cave, you must have this. If you like Nick Cave and have never seen him live, you must hear this. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Live God. Robbie Fulks, Now Then, is also an album that did not quite make my top 30, but I would highly recommend. Robbie has made a number of different styles of music, probably most closely associated with alternative country, Americana, roots music. He's done some bluegrass, even done some adult contemporary kind of songs, and I would honestly say Now Then would probably fit closer into that category. In that regard, it closely resembles his album Couples in Trouble, which is actually one of my favorite Robbie Fulks albums ever, and it was from earlier this millennium, so it's been a good 15, 20 years since Robbie's worked in this style. It's well suited for the stories he's telling here. Highly recommend this one as an honorable mention. And then we have Portugal the Man, which Portugal the Man is a very fun psychedelic rock band from Alaska. Had sort of an out of left field pop hit a few years ago. But this album is more close to the early days of the band, sort of the wild, unchained version of Portugal the Man. So fans that missed that once they had a more streamlined pop approach might consider this a return to form. If that is you, then definitely check out Portugal the Man's Shush. And then we have one that I really wanted to get into my top 30. I just did not. And that is Todd Snider's High Lonesome and Then Some. I just could not make room for it. I couldn't find another in my top 30 that this should replace because, full transparency, this is maybe my least favorite Todd Snider album that he has released. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, and sadly, this is also the last Todd Snider album that will be released, at least during his lifetime, as 1 month after its release, while touring, he suffered a tragic and somewhat controversial death, which for those of us that have followed Todd for many a decade is just still very difficult to accept. And the circumstances, again, are not important as the fact that we lost an incredible human being and just one of a kind artist. And even though this is not his greatest work, it is still recommended. It's a little unfocused and ramshackled. Part of that was by design. He wanted to have sort of a live in the studio feel to it, and it definitely accomplishes that. It also contains his trademark wit. So songs like Older Women certainly show that sharp songwriting for which he is known. Again, this one takes a little more digging into, but if you listen and like it, I would highly suggest that you are going to be going deep diving in the rest of his catalog, which will be just an incredible treat for you because Todd Snider truly was a one-of-a-kind troubadour, lived the life, and the life of his songs. The man on stage was this man, and he was absolutely unique and singular in his talent. So definitely check out the work of Todd Snider. You can start with his most recent High Lonesome and Then Some. Up next on my honorable mentions is a tribute album of sorts. And I say of sorts because Ronnie D'Addario is a name that a lot of folks aren't familiar with, but he is a rock and roll lifer who has played guitar for a number of folks over many decades. And he also has a small, underappreciated, undercirculated solo output as well. And that is what this album celebrates, is highlights of that solo recording career that most people probably do not know of. Now, you may have heard of his sons. His sons went on to form the band The Lemon Twigs, who have appeared on my list in the past. They are one of the more exciting young bands of the last 10 years, 15 years, in my opinion. And they definitely, the apple did not fall far from the tree. They are in that classic rock vein of Beatlesque, Big Star, those luscious harmonies. So this is their tribute to their dad. They play pretty much on every song, and they sing quite a few of them as well. Ronnie takes lead on a few. There's also a few that have special guests like Mac DeMarco and none other than Sean Lennon as another guest. If you do like Big Star, the Byrds, the Beatles, that classic rock 60s, 70s power pop nuggets, this is one that you may find is a treasure, and it might get you digging into the catalog of Ronnie D'Addario as well as his sons in the Lemon Twigs. Which takes me to my first show and tell record and that I have here, and that is DBPM 15. This was a record door, well, it wasn't a record store day exclusive. It was a record store day first, the vinyl was. And then after the beautiful red vinyl came out on record store day, this did hit CD and then streaming a week later. DBPM is the record label of Wilco, Jeff Tweedy. It is their label that they formed and have released music on since. They're highlighting 15 years, an anniversary really, of the record label by having rarities and outtakes, most of which have never made it to vinyl before on this. So Daniel Johnston's on here doing Casper the Friendly Ghost with Jeff Tweedy. The rest of the album is Jeff Tweedy on lead vocals, and it's everything from Wilco to Jeff Solo to the Tweedy Band. And it has everything from covers of the Beatles' "Don't Let Me Down." You got a Fleetwood Mac cover on there. You got them doing the famous Nick Lowe, "What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding." It's just a wonderful collection for fans of Jeff Tweedy and Wilco. Highly recommend. That is a great example of the kind of thing that doesn't normally make my top albums list, just because it's a varied artist. But as far as rarities go and a must hear for fans, it's a must hear. While staying on the topic of Wilco, now we're getting to some box sets. And let me grab this monster for you. I have spent way too much this year on box sets, I know. Wilco, they have their classic album was A Ghost. Well, they have many classic albums. One of their classic albums is A Ghost Is Born. This monster here is reissued with everything you can imagine, alternate takes, outtakes, live album. There's 4 CDs in there, 9 LPs, a great book that puts into context this masterpiece. And at the time, it's funny that it was not necessarily considered a masterpiece because it came on the heels of what is widely viewed as their greatest album, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, which also got the box set treatment a couple of years ago. Wilco just does a fantastic job on these reissues. I honestly think that A Ghost Is Born not only is strong enough to stand on its own, even though Yankee Hotel is truly a classic. I think A Ghost Is Born was probably overlooked even by me at the time. I thought it was great. I didn't realize. I think it's only gotten better through the years. I do think that the outtakes and the alternate takes, some of the things that didn't make the record or some of the different styles that they tried some of these songs in, I think some of those are even stronger than what was shown in some of their previous reissues. So highly recommend that for fans of Wilco. Another box set that I know is got a lot of attention on these best of type lists, and it's deservedly so. Yes, Bob Dylan has always been a critical darling, but it's very true that the bootleg series, which is now in, up to volume 18 here, as you can see on the screen, 18 volumes of the bootleg series. The bootleg series is probably the greatest archival series in the history of recorded music. They have done it well. They have done it right. They have covered every nook and cranny of Bob's career, providing greater depth and context to different periods of his recording life. This goes all the way back to the beginning. Through the Open Window covers the years of Bob Dylan, going from Robert Zimmerman to the Bob Dylan that we all came to know and love and appreciate in the 60s. When I say it goes to the beginning, we're starting with a track that is his high school band doing some 50s covers. And that is the kind of thing that he sounds like anybody in a high school band. So this is not Bob Dylan as the god that we all know him to be in his later years. This is a kid finding his way, and there are interesting outtakes, coffee houses, cafes, private parties, like just a loose assemblage of recordings throughout his early years. But you can see and hear the confidence gain, the stylistic changes from really rough covers to really assured covers to original material that would point the way to the genre defying deity of songwriting that is Bob Dylan. Highly recommended for those that are interested in Bob Dylan. I don't have to tell you that if you're interested in Bob Dylan, you probably already have it or have listened to it. But if you haven't, it's one that you should from 2025. This may be my most treasured find in 2025, and that's only because this is a Record Store Day exclusive. And if you follow me, my personal page, you may have seen the story. The short version of it is I got up crack of dawn and did a Black Friday thing, which I never do. And I did it just to try to score this box set here, Dwight Yoakam. And then I wrote the first 3 albums of the 1990s. By the time I'm in line for like an hour waiting in the cold, I get in, and the one and only copy the store got was being purchased at the time. And the couple at the counter was just unbelievably kind in letting me have this. because they knew that that is what I had primarily came for, which is still just an astonishing thing, but very much appreciated. A couple years ago, I had picked up, they'd done a box set that put Dwight's first three albums from the 80s in a box with some rarities. That was fantastic. So when I heard that this was coming out, I wanted it for sure because it contains This Time, which is my all-time favorite Dwight Yoakam album, which had not yet been released on vinyl. Now, the 80s albums, they did end up putting out in separate outside of the box set after the fact. They probably will do the same for these, but it is the rarities disc that I really wanted because the rarities disc will not come out in all likelihood as its own release. And this rarities disc, if you look at the 90s, Dwight Yoakam was not only expanding his sound beyond just what we had know him for from those early 80s records, he was expanding it into rock and a tad bit of psychedelia and just showing that there was a lot of elasticity other than just pure rock, roots music. But a lot of what he was known for in the 90s also wasn't on any of his official albums. And that is what's collected on the rarities disc. So things like his cover of Suspicious Minds or Warren Zevon's Carmelita with Flacco. And gosh, we have Crazy Little Thing Called Love, you know, the Queen cover. All of that was not on any of his official recordings during that decade. And it was captured on that final disc. So all good stuff. And highly recommend if you can find it somewhere out there. Nebraska. Bruce Springsteen, 82 expanded edition. I have it. I did not bring it here with me. I just realized, but that is okay because I can definitely talk about it. It is a beautiful package. It is the best year I can remember for being a Springsteen fan, and we'll get more into that with my next and final selection. But the Springsteen 82 expanded edition is the classic album in Nebraska with a beautiful remaster. But more than that, what fans are going to want to pick this up for is the famed and fabled Electric Nebraska, the sessions that tried to bring the Nebraska demo to life with the band, and also another disc of acoustic outtakes that were on that original demo tape that didn't make it, a couple of solo recording sessions that were attempts at trying to recreate the solo sound, but in a studio. None of it tended to work. All of it, though, is fascinating. I do believe that Bruce definitely made the right decision. I think most fans that will listen will agree that he did, but there was some great stuff on there. The Downbound Train is not the Downbound Train you remember from Born in the USA that would come later. The song Born in the USA, which is also a demo that was on the Nebraska tape. The demo is there, as well as a early band version that is way more garage rock. There are a couple of never before heard acoustic outtakes that were not even bootlegged, and so new to fans that are also very worthy and worthwhile. Definitely a great pickup for the Bruce Springsteen fan who has long considered it a holy grail to have Electric Nebraska. Well, Electric Nebraska is here, and surprisingly, as great as it is, it's not even the greatest Bruce release this year, which brings me to my final selection. And this is why I ended up forgetting to bring Nebraska over here, because this was heavy enough. This is like a 50-pound beast. But Tracks to the Lost Albums, unbelievable release from Bruce Springsteen. The original Tracks was pretty much what most box sets tend to be, and that are leftovers and outtakes from people's recorded, careers. So you go through the 70s and 80s, all the classic Bruce albums, songs he recorded and didn't put on. A lot of that was collected on Tracks because of the magic of bootlegging, because he would often do a lot of these songs live. Fans knew that Bruce was such a judicious editor, and his output was so stingy in some ways. And so, the quality was always kept so high that he did keep a ton of stuff off of a ton of stuff that most people would kill for, and he would put on the cutting room floor. That was collected in Tracks. Because that was the glory period of Bruce, and 90s on was more, hit or miss. A lot of folks didn't have the same type of hope for Tracks 2. The concept of Tracks 2 here is very different. It is not outtakes from the recorded output of Bruce. Anyone has outtakes. That's what these box sets tend to be, is clearinghouse, sweep out the closet, right? Who shelves not songs but entire albums? Bruce Springsteen does. Maybe you have one or two lost albums. That's something that's a kind of a rock trope, that there's that one that got away from either a record company mishap or some reason why it didn't come out, right? These are 7 albums that definitely have their own distinct styles, and the breadth of styles is astonishing. You have gospel, you have the famous hip hop album, which isn't really hip hop; it just uses loops and things. You have mariachi style music. You have the Ghost of Tom Joad esque like acoustic music. Maybe Twilight Hours is the biggest outlier, and what might be a surprise to folks here. It's very much orchestrated, very much in the Burt Bacharach style. If you think that that's something that Bruce can't pull off, I'm telling you, you are going to be shocked at how wrong you are. All 7 albums in here, and again, all 7. Obviously, I can't review all 7 in this short video, but I will say that had these been albums released separately at any given year, they would have made this list. A few near the top of it, a few like Streets of Philadelphia Sessions, especially somewhere north of Nashville. I would even say Twilight Hours. I would consider some of the better things that Bruce has ever done, better than some of the albums that he did officially release during its time. Also a big fan of Ennio. If you like the Ghost of Tom Joad album, it's sort of a sequel to that. Again, Twilight Hours is astonishing. Streets of Philadelphia Sessions, had he put that out, that is probably the one that is closest to have been, at least the lore is, that was the one that was closest to actually being an album in the 90s. Had it been an album in the 90s, it would have been his greatest album of the 90s. I think is one of his greatest albums, period. That is how astonishingly good these 83 tracks are across 9 pieces of vinyl. There's an amazing book, liner notes here, that goes through everything that is contained in the box set. But the breadth of the material, the quality of the material far exceeds any expectations you could have possibly had for it. It is downright astonishing that there are 7 albums of this quality in one box that one man decided not to put out for a variety of reasons at the time. They are here now, and to get 2 massive projects that fans have longed for years, for decades, they have called for, to get 2 of those within the course of 5 months, it's definitely remarkable, and definitely the greatest year to be a Bruce Springsteen fan that I can ever recall. And I would say that Tracks 2, The Lost Albums, is one of the greatest releases of Bruce's career, just because of the quality, the size, the fan service involved here. Dig in. I've been listening to this for 5 months. I'm still finding favorite tracks. I'm still finding things that are new to me. Highly recommend it. With that, those are the greatest box sets, reissues, honorable mentions of 2025. The next video, we will start the countdown proper. I hope you tune in and follow along as we count down to number 1. We'll start with 30 next time around. Thank you.